So I'm here to talk to you about our region, the Nouvelle Aquitaine region, the region of which I'm president, and the French system, which is not the same as the German system, or as not just any old system. It's a centralized system. So what does a region do within that system? What do we do in the region? What responsibilities does the region have in terms of managing things like organic agriculture, while respecting the Jacobite laws of the French state? Our region is responsible for managing a certain proportion of European funds, as is the case in other countries within the Union. The region has its own agricultural policy, its own food policy. The Nouvelle Aquitaine region is, I believe, in terms of growth, I'm looking at Philippe here, who's from better figures than I am. I think we're the second fastest growing region for organic agriculture, and have been for the last couple of years. I think around 13% of 13.5 or 13.7% of our farms, and 11% of our agricultural surface area is now organic. Obviously, within those figures, we're talking about big cereal crops, large-scale farming, conversion to organic farming. That 11% figure for surface area could grow very rapidly indeed. In terms of the budget, for about 13%, so I said 13% of farms and 11% surface area, 25% of our agricultural budget goes on supporting those farmers. And we decided, in a very clear and firm manner, to maintain those subsidies, the maintenance payments for agricultural farmers, not simply the conversion payments. We've decided to keep up the maintenance payments. And I think it's the French government's decision is highly regrettable, their decision to remove those maintenance payments at national level. Apparently on the basis of a market research study which says, oh, organic market's growing in two-figure growth, so they don't need our public subsidies anymore. And we can get rid of that maintenance payment, which I think is stupid. Obviously, why then do we continue to give maintenance payments for conventional farmers? I find that hard to understand. Anyway, clearly there are debates at government level with forces that are, well, which you know, forces at work in France. Nonetheless, a region has a responsibility to take care of conventional farmers too, even though their model is not sustainable. But I think this is the same in Germany. I know in Northern Europe, Italy, Spain too face the same problems. But what we don't want to do is what happens in certain regions elsewhere in Europe, where we have artificial organic agriculture. We get a lot of imports from tomatoes from Andalusia, for example. I'm not sure if organic is about representing values, then it should be at the cost of slave labor from virtual slavery from immigrant labor. So if we believe, as you mentioned, the three of you in the last panel, that organic agriculture is a matter of values, and I think it's important that without being totally militant. I think the values are not to be conflated with militancy. But if we have values, then they need to be. We need to carry them and display them and be proud of them. And one of those values is the revenue that farmers get from it. A lot of organic conversion comes from there are economic considerations. Farmers think they'll get more money if they go organic. The prices are higher. I think there's a discussion to be had, which needs to be had between the regions of France and the Ministry for Agriculture. How do we manage that this decrease, which is not yet dramatic, but it's real? I don't know how it's happening in other countries, but we're seeing a real decrease in demand, and I think that comes partly from something which was also mentioned earlier, namely that proliferation of quasi-organic alternatives in supermarkets, that France's obsession with hypermarkets and supermarkets and the way we consume. And I think we need to think very carefully about, with the government, about this subject. I don't have figures at my fingertips about people converting away from organic agriculture. I have to ask. I asked Philip if he had any figures. He says no. That's something we need to keep an eye on also. And let's not let our guards down when it comes to public strategy. I think, and I like that advert you were talking about. I think it's inspiring, but I think there's one argument which is lacking, even if it seems to be underlying a lot of things to say, and that's the health benefits, including for the farmers. We took the initiative more than 3 years ago now with some with climate specialists and French biologists will know well. Gilles Boeuf, who's in the regional turf, works for us at the region, and we decided to put in place a comprehensive strategy. One Health, we call it. One Health, connection between human health, animal health, and the health of the plants of the natural world at large. And I think there's a work which is we're going to continue in the coming years, because we haven't done this laboratory, the only one of its kind in France, actually, and you may have heard of this. In fact, the only one of its kind in Europe, set to open soon at the University Hospital in Limoges, which is going to focus both on human health and animal health and plant health and environmental health more broadly. I think that topic, that research in this field, because since I've been president of this region, I've had something of an obsession with research and getting science on board. And I think we need clear objectives. We need to demonstrate again and again the importance of the climate challenge we face, of the consequences it's having, the need for resilience in our territories. It's not, even if today, apart from one single French political party, which is the National Front, whether the extreme right, which denies climate change still, apart from them, everybody else, we need to continue working in the right direction, as we have done. As you've seen what's happened when we can do enforcement with tobacco, for example, considered as a public health hazard. I think we need something similar now for our food. It's no good saying, oh, we need to change in the future, we need to be more modest in the way we use energy, eat less, eat better, things that you've mentioned already. None of that is possible unless there is support in terms of public policy, a real backing for that from decision makers. And in my opinion, we're trying to take several roads at the same time here in Nouvelle Aquitaine. Firstly, we want to demonstrate no, we want to remove some of the obstacles that are faced by farmers in terms of production, insects, yield problems, the problems encountered by organic agriculture, making better use of our cooperatives, of which we have many, how we can get biosourced products to market, which is to get my objective, and this is we've set an ambitious target for our Neo-Terra strategy we have based on decades of scientific work in Nouvelle Aquitaine. Our objective is to switch all of our policies to a clearer focus on biodiversity and climate change, on food quality and health, to incorporate those themes into all of our policies. But we need to, when we go to talk to farmers, we need to have systems to present them to. It might be insurance, Europe, and the ministry in Paris that absolutely need to help us put these systems in place, not just when there's hail, for example, that damages crops. So we need a better system, or frost, for example. We need a better system of insurance for producers. Systems of insurance for all producers, which it would be good if in each European region we could work with the European Commission to put together an insurance fund, a protection fund. We have been experienced in the Deux-Sèvres department. We have CNRS and Lira lab at work there, which has created these sort of workshop zones with teams of scientists working with 400 farmers. Those farmers persuaded that with new agrarian policies, new agricultural policies, even with lower yields, they can make more money. And they can increase their revenue because, well, a farmer, any farmer, is living in a world of uncertainty. Uncertainty due to speculation on the commodities markets, the uncertainty of the climate conditions, the uncertainty of the results of the growing season this year, the health of the animals this year. If we don't do enough to take that uncertainty into a consideration, then we'll never move forward. And we need to provide alternatives. That's why I heard that you mentioned the idea that organic is a militant, something for militants, but it's not going to be enough because 13% organic is not an objective in and of itself. What we wanted to hit a tipping point, so our whole agricultural system switches towards organic, where we get out of these what we call conventional practices. Otherwise, we won't succeed. Organic can't just be a niche. It needs to be a mode of production. We might call it not HVE, because I know HVE is taboo. I'm going to get tomatoes thrown at me here, and they won't be from Nouvelle Aquitaine because they're not ripe yet. In the future, we can't, as there's some political parties telling me the best one is just for everyone to have their own vegetable garden. I don't know how you can manage to do that if you live on the second, third floor. Although if you have got room for a vegetable garden, good for you. But what we need is a strategic, systemic response. And what we're trying to do by removing obstacles to farmers is to coordinate the structure. That means from laboratory startups, companies who can offer alternative solutions. For example, mildew, which affects our tomatoes and our vines. We have microalgae now, which are capable of providing a response to mildew on grapevines. Near Agen, a company called Deux Sangos, which is, and this includes which is doing more to remove any number of health threats to wheat and corn. And we've got about 50 companies, but the problem again is that they said to us, I'm looking at my analysis 2025, and in 2030, I think we'll be ready to go.
Donc, qu'est-ce que font ces entreprises? Elles vont se faire homologuer en Belgique.
So what are they going to do? Well, our companies, they're going to Belgium for their certification.
Il y a là d'ailleurs un problème qui va au-delà de
And there's
la
a problem
santé
which goes above and beyond health, the health of our plants, of our animals,
qui concerne les médicaments.
and that's medicines.
Tant que l'Europe n'aura pas un marché commun,
Until Europe has a common market for drugs,
les découvertes de nouvelles molécules,
then the
y compris
discovery
pour
of
la
new
santé humaine,
molecules, including molecules of
seront
interest for
en
human
AMM,
health,
pour ceux qui connaissent, en autorisation de mise au marché,
they'll have a
aux États-Unis.
market
Et
authorization in the
reviendront
USA,
en Europe à des coûts pharaoniques.
and they'll come
Donc, c'est
be
un
sold to
problème
us in
aussi
Europe at a
de
ridiculous
dépenses
cost.
publiques.
And that's a question of public spending too.
Aujourd'hui, on parle de 2050.
These days we're talking about 2050 already. I say this to all government members. I've said it to successive governments in France. 2050. For me, that's too late.
Si j'ai fixé 2030, ce que personne m'a suggéré,
If I've got no one told me to go 2030, not even my green friends, my ecologist friends, no one.
quand tu y étais, c'est parce que je pense qu'il y a urgence.
Why did I make 2030 our target? Because I think we're in an emergency here, and we need to find that tipping point, and we need the resources and the means to do it.
L'assurance,
And that means supporting our farmers, that means insurance, it means alternative produce, biosourced, biocontrolled products.
et puis que l'on conditionne un certain nombre de politiques.
And it means political support, policy support. And that includes water
Il ne s'agit
policy.
pas de dire on arrête d'arroser l'agriculture.
We're not going to say, all right, we're no longer allowed to water crops,
etc.,
from your garden up to your tomatoes.
totalement stupide.
Obviously,
Même
that's
si vous
stupid, it's
payez,
not
même
possible.
si vous-
Even with straw, even if you let the grass grow as far as you can, or even if you got wood chips or whatever. I went to visit a few organic companies in Charente recently.
Il y a un prélèvement de l'eau.
Water, you still need water.
Et c'est un paradoxe de
But,
cette région
and this is a
aquitaine
paradox
de
of this
devenir pays
region,
des eaux mêlées.
which we
Nous
call a
avons
country of
aujourd'hui des nappes
the land of water. We've got
état catastrophique.
the water levels in the north of the region are catastrophic at the moment.
Avec l'eau, avec un
So it
stockage
needs to be aligned. We need to do better to align these agricultural policies with the management of water
là où
reserves.
on peut les faire.
Where it's possible, we need more
Et en
reservoirs.
prélevant non pas en sous-sol,
And we need to take our water not from the groundwater,
bien entendu, parce qu'on sait que si
but from the rain.
l'eau en sous-sol
But if the groundwater levels are low,
aujourd'hui
we end up with what we have
des
now
interdictions
in situations where
des préfectures.
we're having to
Donc on est en
ban.
train de travailler entre la
the
région,
watering.
les deux régions d'Occitanie,
So we're working with Occitanie, which is our neighbour region,
et l'agence de l'eau.
and with the water agencies, we're working on a
Cette conditionnalité, il faut
joint strategy.
qu'on soit très ambitieux,
We need to
très
be
pragmatique,
ambitious, but also thoroughly
en même temps pour
pragmatic.
mettre en place une ingénierie pour accompagner.
And we need all the policy engineering with all the relevant stakeholders to make sure that this new model of agriculture can become a
Ça
reality.
s'appellera peut-être pas une agriculture biologique,
It might not be called organic agriculture in the future.
ça s'appellera peut-être l'agroécologie.
Maybe we'll call it
Si
agroecology.
j'avais moi une demande à vous faire,
But if I had one question to ask you,
avec
or
les
one
instances
thing to ask
européennes,
of you and the European agencies that are represented here today, the Ministry for Agriculture, I'd love a real proper definition of agroecology. I just do not have that.
je le sais,
I mean, I know vaguely what agroecology means, but it's not really been properly defined, and that's why
des labels de
you
type
have these labels, there's HVE and other labels that are there on the market.
même si c'est une
Even if it's a
paperasserie
sort of progress, even though there's an awful lot of paperwork involved, we don't have a proper definition of what
Et il faut qu'on
agroecology.
ait, pour préserver la planète,
And if we're going to save the
chacun de nos
planet
pays,
and
un
each of our
basculement
countries,
massif
we
de
need a
notre
massive
agriculture vers
transition of our
l'agroécologie.
agriculture towards an agroecological model.
Mais je n'oublie pas aussi, j'y reviens d'un mot,
And let's not forget,
que l'agriculture biologique
that organic
utilise aussi
agriculture
des produits de synthèse.
uses synthetic products.
Ça s'appelle pour la vigne et la tomate la bouillie bordelaise.
They call it the bouillie bordelaise, the Bordeaux bouillie they use. It's copper and sulfur. This is they use it on the vines and tomatoes here in Bordeaux. And in some of the hectares of vines, we have plenty of vines here in
Il y a
Bordeaux,
à moins de 50 cm dans le sol une tonne de
there-
cuivre par
there's
hectare.
a ton of copper per hectare in the soil. That's going down to a depth of just half a meter.
Le troisième point que je voulais évoquer parce que c'est une stratégie
Third
de la
point, which I
région,
wanted to mention also, because it's
qu'on peut
another
pas procéder
regional strategy, is that we cannot
sans
continue
les territoires qui sont autour des fermes.
without better cooperation with the territories around our farms. I think we need to redefine what we mean by a bio-committed territory. Firstly, because the climate issue is not something that can be, it's not just be broken down into these things, pesticides, renewable energies, etc. Too often it's silo thinking, we break it down into these different things. We need to put all these things together. They're all facets of the same problem. To do that, we need to mobilize our territorial stakeholders, and I'm going to try personally to look more closely with these designated territories which we call energy positive territories. What can we do who already focus on their environment, who have made great progress with their environmental criteria? What can we do to make more progress towards agroecology and improve our use of renewable energies? Can the public sector give meaning to that transition? I think the answer is yes. We've had two experiences from the region. The first has been regrouping the people who the purchasing operations for our high schools. It's an association we created at the initiative of the director of the high school in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. We serve 70 million meals across the region this year. Obviously, we're aiming to go to 100 million and more. High schools, 25 million meals alone in our high schools. That association, that collective buying association, has because they have to respect the market the codes. They have a software which allows it to allows them to eliminate products containing conservatives, endocrine disturbers, etc. when making public orders. Does that work? It speeds up that process of verifying the products that are served in our canteens and to make them healthier. Now, our target for 2030 is to achieve 60% of organic produce. Some high schools and middle schools are already hitting that target. And I don't think there need be a contradiction between short local distribution circuits and the broader agroecological organic transition. I think the public authorities, the professional organizations, and others need to do a better job of unifying these causes. That's what policy is. It's about bringing things together. How can we achieve this convergence? How can we make a success of the agroecological transition? It's in progress. We're working with on the roadmap for 2023-2027. The goal is to continue, I mentioned this earlier, with significant funding in form of subsidies for maintenance payments for organic farmers, especially in these difficult times. We've added 100 million euros to that budget. To continue with that roadmap that I'm hoping we'll be able to sign by the end of the year, which has been co-constructed with the professional organizations, with, of course, the Interregional Organic Federation, but not just that, because I don't want to be, again, I don't want to simply sit back on my laurels and be satisfied with that and get caught up in that ideological battle there is sometimes between different organizations. I mean, there might be something that you can do for political reasons. Some others have done, but it doesn't deliver positive outcomes for our consumers. In any case, we're here in a region where it's hot, you've noticed. At the region, everyone's working from home at the moment. We haven't put the air conditioning on because environmentally, absolutely, in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, it's intolerable. And Mr. Chairman, I'm very honoured on behalf of the whole Nouvelle Aquitaine region.
Ich spreche nicht Deutsch.
Anyway, very honoured that this great Congress is being held, this European Congress, European Organic Congress is being held in Nouvelle Aquitaine and here in Bordeaux.